In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
You are watching The World 24/7 on the NDTV network. I am Parmeshwar Bava. An action-packed bulletin lined up for you. Let's begin with the top stories you need to know. US President Donald Trump's administration has concluded that Harvard University violated federal civil rights law by not protecting Jewish students from harassment during campus protests, as per reports. At a time when Delhi is reaching out to leaders of the Global South and the BRICS grouping, Prime Minister Modi will be visiting 5 nations in Africa and South America from the 2nd until the 9th of July. The White House press secretary has praised India's role as a strategic ally in the Indo-Pacific region. This as the US reciprocal tariffs pause is set to run out on the 9th of July, and Indian trade negotiators, well, they are learned to have extended their visit to Washington. Pakistan and China are working on a proposal to establish a new regional organization that could potentially replace the now defunct South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, as per PTI. This report adds that talks between Islamabad and Beijing are now at an advanced stage. India and Bhutan have approved 10 projects amounting to over 1,100 crore rupees, including projects on healthcare, connectivity and urban infrastructure. The Dalai Lama is set to reveal his succession plan. The choice of a successor to the Dalai Lama, the spiritual head of Tibetan Buddhists, is a matter of riveting interest, not only for followers of his religion, but also China, India, and the United States for strategic reasons. Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, and Emily Blunt are officially set to return for The Devil Wears Prada 2, which has now started production. Right, our big focus, the Trump administration investigation has found Harvard University in violent violation of the Civil Rights Act, once more escalating its battle with the school days after US President Donald Trump suggested a deal was in sight to end its targeting of the university. Now, this latest letter from the Joint Task Force, first reported by the Wall Street Journal, warns that a failure to institute adequate changes immediately will result in the loss of all federal financial resources and continue to affect Harvard's relationship with the federal government. Also adding that Harvard may, of course, continue to operate free of federal privileges, and perhaps such an opportunity will spur a commitment to excellence that will help Harvard thrive once again. Now, in response, you must note that Harvard has said it's far from indifferent and strongly disagrees with this report's conclusion. But in terms of context, the US government has already frozen billions in federal research funding and also threatened Harvard's tax-exempt status with further leverage in the form of pulling student aid grants. Now, for further clarity, joining us at the moment on the World 24/7, commentator and author Dr. Richard Benkin. Dr. Benkin, as always, really appreciate your time. Now, this latest move, do you believe this is a justified characterization, or is the Trump administration overreaching here?
Well, thank you once again for having me on. It's always my pleasure and my privilege. I belong to an organization, the name of which is Stand With Us, and for many years we've been documenting the sort of bigotry that Jewish students have to face at various universities, including Harvard. So what the administration is pointing out and what the report pointed out, it's real. This is not political. This is not ideological. This is not an attempt to silence dissent or anything like that, but this is real. And just as we expect our government to support civil rights, regardless of who the offended group is, whether it's African Americans, whether it's women, LGBTQ members, or for that matter, and this is going to become, I think, something we'll be hearing about more and more, whether or not it's Hindu Americans. And now, of course, we're talking about Jewish Americans, regardless of who that group is. We expect our federal government to support these people and oppose any kind of bigotry against them. But I'd like to add, so this is real. This is not nonsense. Secondly, I'd like to add something else to play here. The Trump administration, and I think the American people, have really taken a position where we've decided to look very closely at how we spend our money. And if, in fact, we're giving billions of dollars to an institution that's violating these provisions, we need to look at it again and question whether or not that is the way we want to spend our hard-earned tax dollars. And remember, every dollar we give, whatever it's for, contributes to a growing deficit that's going to be more problematic in the future if we don't get it under control. So there are a number of things going on here, and all of them are real. And I really have to applaud the Trump administration for taking this action.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Benkin, as always, for joining us with your views. Many are questioning if Harvard, arguably the gold standard of education, is found non-compliant with civil rights laws. What messages are actually sent to other global universities, including universities in India? But my colleague Natasha Israni also joins us at the moment. She's been tracking this entire saga since the very beginning. Natasha, how is Harvard reacting currently to the latest move as far as the Trump administration is concerned? And can Harvard really emerge from this with its moral and academic authority intact?
Well, I was at Harvard University a few weeks ago on campus talking to a range of students. And one of the things that kept coming up was how proud these students were on how Harvard was actually standing up to the Trump administration, even within academic circles, as well as different universities. Everybody is very clear that Harvard is actually making the toughest stance against the Trump administration. They've been very rigorous and very aggressive when it comes to taking all kinds of cases to court to try and allow them to have that freedom which they want, whether it comes to letting international students in or to deciding what programs they teach and how they teach it. So Harvard has been strong for a while now, and how it stands up to this latest from Trump remains to be seen. But so far, Harvard has been successful to some extent in some of those cases in pushing back some of the momentum that the Trump administration has been building against it.
As always, Natasha, thank you so much for breaking down the details for us. Well, let's switch tracks now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will embark on a 5-nation tour beginning on Wednesday, the 2nd of July, to participate in the BRICS summit in Brazil and also expand India's ties with several key nations of the global south. This will be the Prime Minister's longest diplomatic visit in the last 10 years. The Prime Minister's 8-day tour, which will last until the 9th of July, will cover 2 continents and include visits to Ghana, Trinidad, Argentina, Brazil and Namibia. Now, besides Brazil, the Prime Minister will visit Ghana, as I mentioned, and Namibia during this trip. But what exactly is his plan of action? My colleague Mohammad Ghazali breaks down the plan for you.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to undertake a 5-nation trip which spans for 8 days, and that starts from July 2 from Ghana, a country in African region, and from there the stopover will be in Brazil for the BRICS summit, then Trinidad and Tobago, Namibia, Argentina. So these are the 5 nations which the Prime Minister will be visiting, but all eyes will be on the BRICS summit because we know India is going to host BRICS next year, and this time around 2 key personalities or leaders from 2 member states, China and Russia, their President Xi Jinping of China and President Vladimir Putin from Russia will not be attending it. So in that absence, Prime Minister Modi will be there. Perhaps this visit is being seen as something that the theme of the entire event at BRICS Summit would be the collaboration between Global South. We have seen that how India has emerged as the voice of Global South. So a better collaboration between the BRICS member states will be the focus of this event. But besides that, Prime Minister will be visiting Ghana, Trinidad and Tobago, Argentina, and these states, Namibia, and for every state the Prime Minister will have a separate bilateral meeting with the heads of the states there. In some of the states, Prime Minister will also be addressing the parliament. As far as Ghana is concerned, the Prime Minister is expected to address the parliament there, and one of the key nations of Africa with a very high per capita income as well. In most of these visits, the bilateral visits of which the Prime Minister is undertaking, the focus will be on to foster ties, economic ties, and in the sphere of defense, AI, emerging technologies and critical minerals. We'll also have to see that how a joint declaration of BRICS, which is going to happen on 6th and 7th of July, that what will be the theme there, because India will certainly focus on criticizing and condemning the Pahalgam terror attack, because earlier the SCO declaration on Iran-Israel conflict was something which India distanced itself from, but when it came to BRICS statement, India aligned itself with the joint statement. So BRICS would be the focus of this visit, but besides that, the bilateral relations with countries in Caribbean, where we have Trinidad and Tobago, we have African countries, we have Argentina. So with all these countries, a larger collaboration, deeper ties in different spheres will be explored when Prime Minister and his team will be visiting to these countries.
Right, moving on. Turning a blind eye to state-sponsored terrorism, Pakistan's Army Chief General Asim Munir has accused India of launching 2 unprovoked attacks on Pakistan, describing the incidents as a troubling absence of strategic foresight. Now, delivering a speech at the Pakistan Naval Academy in Karachi, Munir justified Pakistan's brazen support for terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir by framing it as a legitimate struggle. He called Pakistan a regional stabilizer and called Kashmir the jugular vein of Pakistan, something he has in fact said before. But though consistent with Pakistan's boilerplate formulation, Munir's remarks have been viewed in India with interest because they come in the flush of his success in cultivating ties with the Trump administration after that lunch date with the US President in the White House. Mohammad Ghazali breaks down the significance for us.
Pakistan Army Chief Asim Munir has yet again raked up the issue of Kashmir, the terrorism over there, and has blamed India for the aggression or unprovoked aggression, saying that on 2 occasions India went on for unprovoked aggression, and in the future, if it happens, the responsibility will lie with the aggressor. But when coming to talking about the terror groups in Jammu and Kashmir, he says that they have legitimate target, they have legitimate purpose of a struggle, and those people are struggling against the Indian government. India has categorically rejected all these allegations, like what he had said before before the Pahalgam terror attack, where he had said that Kashmir is the jugular vein of Pakistan. The External Affairs Ministry and the Indian government's stand is very clear that whenever a dialogue happens between India and Pakistan, it will be just on how Pakistan or how soon Pakistan is going to vacate the illegally occupied territory of Jammu and Kashmir.
And with that, let's turn our attention to the other crucial headline we're tracking. The White House press secretary has just praised India's role as a strategic ally in the Indo-Pacific region during a press briefing. She also highlighted the strong personal relationship between the US President Donald Trump and our Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But with 8 days to go for the US to restart reciprocal tariffs, is there a stalemate in India-US trade talks? Well, New Delhi has been hardening its position on offering duty concessions on agricultural products. The silver lining at the moment seems to be that the White House has said that a deal with India may come very soon. Listen in to the latest as far as the White House is concerned.
The President said that last week, and it remains true. I actually just spoke to our Secretary of Commerce about it. He was in the Oval Office with the President. They are finalizing these agreements, and you'll hear from the President and his team, his trade team, very soon when it comes to India.
And on China, how do we counter China on that front?
Yes, I mean, look, India remains a very strategic ally in the Asia-Pacific, and the President has a very good relationship with Prime Minister Modi, as you know, and he will continue to have that.
For context, you must note that India is holding firm, especially on agriculture and dairy. Sectors, it says, are too sensitive to open up, but it has offered tariff relief on 90% of goods. Let's get in a quick update from my colleague Rishabh Bhatnagar, who joins us at the moment. Rishabh, the deal deadline is 8 days away. As we speak, is there a sliver of hope? And take us also through the sticky matters at the moment.
Right, Parmeshwar, I'd say there's more than a sliver of hope, given the fact that our negotiators are still in Washington. They have extended their trips, their current trip multiple times. The original trip was supposed to be only from June 26th to 27th. But as we speak, they are still in Washington, continuing these trade talks and also hardening their stance on certain key sensitive issues like agriculture as well as dairy produce. What we're also picking up is the fact that both sides remain keen but not desperate to cut a deal, given that the national interests have to reign supreme in such a case. Some key sticky issues that come in the middle of this is, of course, agriculture and dairy produce. What we're also seeing is the fact that the sectoral tariffs that were imposed by the Donald Trump administration on steel, aluminium, as well as auto components, that is something that India wants to be removed. And that is something that we will continue tracking over the course of the next 2 or 3 days is when is the crucial bit.
Joining us with the lowdown. Meanwhile, in a strong and clear message from the world stage, our External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, has called out state-sponsored terrorism in a veiled but unmistakable reference to Pakistan. Speaking at the United Nations while inaugurating India's digital exhibition titled The Human Cost of Terrorism, Dr. Jaishankar said it's imperative to expose terrorism when it's backed by a state, fueled by extremism and spreads across borders. But this exhibition, launched just a day before Pakistan takes over the UNSC presidency, showcases deadly terror attacks like the 1993 and 2008 Mumbai attacks and the recent Pahalgam strike as well, all pointing towards Pakistan-based groups. Listen in to the External Affairs Minister's detailed remarks.
Terrorism is one of the gravest threats to humanity. It is the antithesis of everything that the UN stands for: human rights, rules and norms, and how nations should conduct their dealings with each other. When terrorism is supported by a state against a neighbor, when it is fueled by the bigotry of extremism, when it drives a whole host of illegal activities, it is imperative to call it out publicly. And one way of doing so is to display the havoc that it has wreaked on global society. 5 weeks ago, the United Nations Security Council issued a strong condemnation of a particularly horrific act of terrorism in Pahalgam. It demanded that its perpetrators be held accountable and brought to justice. We have since seen that happen. What that response underlines is a larger significance of the message of zero tolerance for terrorism. The world must come together on some basic concepts: no impunity to terrorists, no treating them as proxies, and no yielding to nuclear blackmail. Any state sponsorship must be exposed and must be countered. By now, we know well that terrorism anywhere is a threat to peace everywhere.
My colleague Natasha Israni joins us with a quick update at the moment. Natasha, take us through the details of what this digital exhibition displays and also what can one expect from this Quad meet?
Right. The digital exhibition at the United Nations was organized by the Indian delegation. And what it exhibited was the human cost of terrorism across various strikes across the world. What India has been highlighting at the United Nations for several years now is the cost that India has also faced in terrorism. And they've tried to highlight that if you don't crack down on state-sponsored terrorism in clear indication of Pakistan, then it's a threat not just to India, but also to the region and to across the world as well. Now, we must understand some context here. The seriousness with which countries like even the United States took terrorist groups in Pakistan is relatively recent. Till 2001, Lashkar-e-Taiba was not designated a foreign terrorist organization by the United States. They started taking it far more seriously after the 2001 attacks on US soil, which was the Twin Towers. So terrorism remains a major topic of concern for India. They've seen more headway, more attention is paid to India now because of what's going on in the world and because India has remained consistent on it. And this exhibition, again, is another point for India to emphasize. And the timing, like you said, is very important because it's this month, which has just started, where Pakistan takes on the presidency of the rotating UN Security Council.
Natasha, as always, thank you so much for breaking down the details for us. Well, let's switch tracks now. The Dalai Lama will address a major 3-day gathering of Buddhist religious figures this week ahead of his 90th birthday, as his followers wait for the Tibetan spiritual leader to share details about his succession in a move that could irk China. Beijing views the Dalai Lama, who fled Tibet in 1959 after a failed uprising against Chinese rule, as a separatist and says it will choose his successor. The Dalai Lama has said his successor will be born outside China and has urged his followers to reject anyone chosen by Beijing. We'll keep a close eye on all the latest key developments, as well as that key conference that's expected to take place in Dharamshala. Slipping into a very quick commercial break for now. The latest updates are lined up for you in a moment. Do stay tuned.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
Welcome back. Well, 13 hours since voting began, the US Senate still has not passed Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill, which could enact his domestic tax and spending agenda and also add an estimated $3.3 trillion to the national debt over the next decade. The vote is expected to be tight. Republicans can only afford to lose 3 votes for the legislation to pass, and 2 senators have already expressed their firm no's. These 2 senators are Rand Paul and Thom Tillis. Now, Republicans actually need a simple majority to get the bill through the Senate, meaning they can only afford to lose 3 of their 53 members if every Democrat votes against the bill and Vice President J.D. Vance casts a tie-breaking vote. Meanwhile, you must note that while this 13-hour vote was underway, the Trump administration has sued the city of Los Angeles over policies limiting city cooperation with federal immigration authorities, continuing a confrontation over Donald Trump's aggressive deportation efforts in the largely Democratic city. And in a series of posts on social media, tech billionaire and Trump's former billionaire sidekick, if I may say so, Elon Musk, who spent more than $250 million in support of Trump's candidacy, denounced Republican efforts to pass the president's budget bill. Musk pledged to actually discover a new political party. He has pressing needs for one, he says. He called it the America Party, and he asked for candidates who did not back the budget bill in future elections. In a fiery post on X, Musk slammed both Republicans and Democrats, saying the record-breaking debt bill proves America is ruled by a uniparty, and he also declared, and I quote, "If this bill passes, the America Party will be formed the next day." By the way, Elon Musk has also vowed to fund primary challenges against any lawmaker who backs this bill, calling it debt slavery and accusing the grand old party of betraying its base. Trump, though, did not sit down. He fired back, calling Musk's reaction inappropriate and hinting Musk's outrage may be about EV subsidy cuts, a claim Musk denies. Meanwhile, the International Crimes Tribunal will hear framing charges against ousted former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in a case filed over crimes against humanity committed during the July-August uprising last year. Besides Sheikh Hasina, hearings will also take place against 2 of her aides, former Home Minister Asaduzzaman and former Inspector General of Police Chaudhry Abdullah Al-Mamoon. A 3-member tribunal led by Justice Muhammad Gholam Martaza Mazumdar set the date and said a state defense counsel would be appointed for Hasina and Asaduzzaman, who are currently on the run. Now, as we've been covering, a heat wave has cast its spell on much of Europe and the United Kingdom, with a record hot first day of play at Wimbledon and high winds fanning forest fires in Turkey on the other hand. Parts of the UK were just shy of being one of the hottest June days ever. The highest UK temperature of the day was recorded at Heathrow Airport on London at 33 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, Wimbledon recorded a temperature of 32.9 degrees Celsius, the tennis tournament's hottest opening day on record. And finally, production has started on The Devil Wears Prada 2, and it's set to reunite the iconic ensemble Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway and Emily Blunt. They're all returning to their celebrated roles from the 2006 original. This sequel will also see the addition of Kenneth Branagh. He will actually portray the husband of Miranda Priestley, played by Meryl Streep, the formidable editor-in-chief. We're told that shooting is beginning shortly. Thank you for investing your time in watching this edition of The World 24/7. We'll keep tracking the latest for you. Do stay tuned.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
A very good morning. You're watching The Breakfast Show. I'm Divya Wadla. We have a whole lot lined up for you, including the news of Shefali Zariwala and the post-mortem report, which isn't out yet. It's been 72 hours and counting. One doesn't know what really went on at the time of the death of the actor from Bollywood. We'll get you all the details. First, let's get you the headlines. Bollywood and TV world is in shock after the sudden demise, the untimely demise of Shefali Zariwala. It's been 72 hours, but the autopsy report is awaited. The findings of what really went on and what happened at the time of the death of the actor. Game of Thrones in Karnataka with Congress troubleshooter in the state on a 3-day visit. He will be meeting MLAs today with calls for a cabinet reshuffle and leadership changes circulating.